It's time to talk hockey with a Utah Mammoth and NHL Insider on KSLSports.com. Cole Bagley on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time to talk some Mammoth hockey. Our next guest appearance on the show is brought to you by our friends at Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. He covers the Mammoth for KSLSports.com. He's our buddy Cole Bagley. What's going on, Cole?
Not a lot. How are you guys?
Doing well. Things have turned up, or have been on an upturn since we last talked to you. Back-to-back wins. Win over the Kraken was very solid, and then it kind of looked like all hope had been dashed again against the Penguins, and they stormed back with a truly impressive third period and overtime. As you've been around this team, you're on this road trip. Are you getting a sense that this feels like an improvement internally?
Yeah, if you watched their last three games, even though they lost to Florida, I would say these last three have probably been, for the most part, some of the most involved hockey, if you will, from the team as a whole. Guys, really embracing that next man up mentality that Tourney's been talking about since Cooley went down. We've seen some pretty good performances from guys up and down the roster, guys like Nick Schmaltz. Obviously, Dylan Guenther has played really well. I thought Vemelka's been better over the last couple games. But yeah, I think guys are just maybe a little bit more bought in and recognizing that, hey, without Cooley, we've really got to give a little bit more effort, play with some more urgency, and, play that gritty style of hockey to get wins. And, over the last three games, even though the Penguins game was not the prettiest, it was still, the most positive outcome and picking up 2 points. And, we'll see if they can't keep it going tonight against Boston.
Maybe you just answered this a little bit, but what is the connective tissue with this team when they really have it rolling their way? What are they doing?
Yeah, I think like any hockey team, it's trying to play a complete 60 minutes and not necessarily, playing your A game for 60 minutes, but giving a complete effort, playing with energy and urgency, because you're not going to win all 60, but if you can, offer your the most effort through 60 minutes. If you can, win 45 to 50 of those, you're going to put yourself in a decent spot to win the game. And that was, really the case against the Penguins, last game out. They made a couple of mistakes, but for the most part, they were out shooting the Penguins, by almost, twice as many shots and even were approaching three times as many shots. And eventually pucks started going in. But in terms of style, I've really liked what I've seen over the last three games. As I talked about earlier, they've just been playing, with more urgency, towards the middle of the ice as well as close to the net. Guys like Lawson Krause and Jack McBain and really, pretty much all the forwards have started to play that more gritty style of hockey, getting bodies in front of the net, getting the goaltender moving back and forth, screening, his eyes. And that's why we've seen them score as many goals as they have over the last few games. So that's when that's when they're at their best, is everybody's giving a complete effort and they're playing more of that gritty style hockey and close to the net there.
From a scoring production, point production, it doesn't seem like Mikhail Sergachev is that far off of the pace that we saw last year, but his impact certainly feels different. He seems like he's making mistakes out there. He doesn't seem to be making the clutch plays that we saw last season. What have you seen from him, and what has Coach Bear said about it?
Yeah, I asked Coach about this this morning, just because, he's not too far off in terms of production. I mean, he's down a little bit compared to last season, but not too much. But I think what it comes down to for Sergachev is I don't feel like he's as bought in as he was a year ago, and I think last year was unique for Sergachev. Obviously, after getting traded from Tampa, where he won 2 cups, he'd spent, I think, 7 or 8 seasons. He was really established there. There was really nothing left for him to prove, and I'm sure if they would have kept him, he would have just continued to ride it out. But, Utah makes the trade for him. They bring in Sergachev, and, the expectation, I think, for Utah was for him to become, the number one defenseman for the Mammoth. And, he lived up to those expectations. He proved that he could be a top D-man in the NHL. But it just feels like after he proved that, he's kind of that chip on his shoulder has kind of gone away. He hasn't been as assertive. He hasn't been as emotional. That was a big thing last year. He played with emotion. He played like he wanted to win every game, and he wanted to prove to Tampa and to the rest of the league, the type of player that he was. I just haven't seen that from him this season. Like I said, I talked to Bear about it this morning, and he admitted, look, Mikhail has not had the best start to the year, but he's recognized that, and he's played better as of late.
Is the goaltending where it needs to be to make a playoff run?
No, it's definitely not. I'm not exactly sure where they are as a tandem, but a week or two ago, they were like the 6th worst save percentage in the NHL at a collective about .875. Now, Vejmelka has been playing better. I think he's now approaching 8.9, maybe the mid to 8.9. So, I think this season is unique for the NHL as a whole. Goaltending in general is down because it's a condensed schedule. Guys are playing more games. Goaltenders are playing more games in a shorter amount of time, which is difficult. And, teams are scoring more goals. So I think, if Utah can continue to just keep their head above water, if Vejmelka he has been better. If he can continue to play the way that he has over the last few games, he will help put Utah in a spot to claim, a playoff position. But the issue is, Vanacek has just not played very well. I think his save percentage right now is .878, which even for a backup is just not the numbers that you'd hope to see. So collectively, they need to be better, but especially Vitek Vanacek, who it appears he'll be getting the start net tonight. So a good opportunity for him to put up a good performance.
So we've seen some really high highs and some really low lows, but what are we, 34 games into the season now for the club? They're sitting on 35 points. Give us a grade on where they are. Give us a grade on how this season has gone so far, and also how well they are set up to make a push for the playoffs.
Yeah, it's like you said, really high highs, really low lows. I think a lot of people feel as though Utah has played below expectations, which I would say is for the most part accurate. But I think when you consider things just as a whole, long term, they're tied with San Jose right now in terms of points. San Jose does have one of the tiebreakers over them, which is why the Sharks are ahead of them in the second wild card spot. But with a win tonight, Utah can jump into that spot. And, if the Penguins are able to beat the Oilers, and if the Sharks drop another one, then Utah would actually jump into the top wild card spot. And I think if you were to ask anybody in the front office, or if you were to tell anybody in the front office that 34, 35 games in that Utah would be in the top wild card spot, I think they'd be happy with that. Now, with that being said, the journey, to this point in the season has definitely not been up to expectations. There's obviously some things that have been not necessarily alarming, but they've gone through some tough struggles. So if I'm going to give it a grade, I'd probably give it a C-. I think they're just a little bit below where they should be. A lot of that, again, has to do with how they've gotten there. But at the end of the day, they're right there. They're in the race. And if they can just hang on for the next, 7 or 8 weeks, get to the Olympic break within 2 or 3 points of a playoff spot, or even, just stay in one, then they can get through the Olympics, get Cooley back. They can approach the deadline more as buyers, see if they can't add a piece or two, and really push themselves into the playoffs as they've said they wanted to from day one this year.
Who's the best team in the league right now?
Oh, Colorado Avalanche, far and away. I mean, they've only lost twice in regulation. They have 53 points, on the year. Their goal differential is plus 54. Which is just absolutely outrageous. I think the next best team is Dallas with plus 25. So the Colorado Avalanche, I mean, if they don't win the Cup this year, I mean, that is just an incredible failure for that team. They're just so good in all three facets of the game. They have two of the best players in the world, arguably the MVP this season, in Nathan McKinnon. So, Colorado is the team to beat. And I don't know if anybody's – I mean, they've only, like I said, through 32 games, they have 2 regulation losses. I mean, that's outlandish. That is ridiculous.
Cole, we have also learned that the Mammoth are going to be without Logan Cooley for 8 weeks. We didn't know how long it was going to be the last time we talked. How does that change the perspective of the injury, his development, and for the team?
Yeah, kind of like we speculated, right? Didn't think it was going to be season-ending. I think 8 weeks is a happy medium, if you will, in terms of an injury, especially because he'll get an extra 3 to make sure he's fully ready to go with the Olympic break. So he'll technically have 11 weeks from the time that he went out to the time that he should, or at least they expect him to be back. And for this team, if you lost Logan Cooley for the season, they probably would be in a position of waving the white flag, understanding that it would be darn near impossible to make the playoffs. But, with him out just about 2 months, as I said before, if they can keep their heads above water, if they can, continue to play with a chip on their shoulders, if everybody can buy in and have that next man up mentality, and if they can stay within 2 or 3 points of a playoff spot through these next 2 months, they'll have a shot to really push once Cooley is healthy. So for him to not, be out for the entire season, it changes the trajectory and gives them a chance.
Cole, we appreciate you and all your fine work. We'll be following your coverage from Boston.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Enjoy it, Cole. Thanks.
Thanks, Cole. There you go. Cole Bagley covers the Mammoth for KSLSports.com.